Hello everyone, welcome to this live stream. Hope everyone has been having a good day. Today's live stream is going to start with, or today's live stream's thumbnail, I should say, is the daily puzzle again. As far as I'm concerned, the daily puzzle on Sundays, which is the date I'm live streaming this, is stronger than the usual puzzles in the other days of the week. So this one is pretty tough. Actually, the names of the people that were playing this game were Magnus and Rebecca Harris, also known as Daniel Narodetsky, rest in peace, former good teacher, and everyone knows about that. Let's let it rest, as I think everyone should. And in this position, white has a very good move, and that is Queen f7. The idea of Queen f7 is that, first of all, you notice that there's some pressure against Rook takes g7, so against g7. One of the first moves that you should give a shot is Rook takes g7. But very quickly you realize that it does not work, because black can simply take the queen and there's no mating net, or there's no mate at all. So Queen f7 is the best move. You notice very quickly that the 8th rank is weak. So after Queen takes f7, you take with the pawn, and the engine gives this as a correct answer. But of course, when you're solving puzzles, you should go right into any questions you had. So right into that before you relax and you move on to the next puzzle. You should make sure that everything you thought was correct. In my case, of course, I think the only way of stopping this pawn is Rook c8. Notice that with this pawn being on g5, for example, black would always have king g7. So it's important that this pawn is on g7. It allows white to, well, it limits black's options. Only way of playing is Rook c8. And in this position, my idea was Rook e3. Although I'm quite sure there are several ways of winning, but Rook e3 is one of them. Yeah. Rook e3 is the best, and the idea is that if Rook e2, preventing Rook e8, it doesn't fully prevent it, because my other rook is invading. And once again, important to have this pawn even on g7 existing. If that pawn didn't exist, potentially king g7 at some point, but even then, Rook e8, okay, well, maybe you would have to start thinking about rook versus knight. It's very useful for white to have this black pawn on g7, so it is winning. Hello, Viking. Oh, I failed to do that. I'll do it right now. Actually, you know what? Okay, I'll write it down right now before I forget. Sorry about that. Check Viking puzzle. I will either do one of two things. I will check it off stream and send you a message, or I will check it off stream. Check it off stream, solve it, and send you a message with the solution, or check it off stream, solve it, and bring it up on Wednesday stream. But yeah, I've written it down. But I'm doing well. What about you? Okay, well, I think that's good enough. I think we're ready to go. Okay, so let's go here. Hopefully we're not lagging or anything. Okay. So we're gonna play 3+0 as we usually do. Most of the time I claim that the value of these live streams is actually in the portion of analysis. A blitz game is by far not the best way of measuring one's ability in chess. The best way is classical chess, but even that, you can argue, is not always accurate. But what does show how strong someone is their ability to learn and analyze and be patient, I guess. Okay, we're playing against 2600. Good start. We're going to play 1d6 as we've been doing. I'm aiming for King's Indian defenses, structures, or Philidor. So in this case, I'm going to go e5. Inviting white to go into the endgame, but white declines. This is a very principled way of playing as white. I'm going to play knight bd7. They go bishop c4. Once again, very principled. I'm going to play bishop e7. For a moment here, white has the additional option of playing bishop takes 7, although this is dubious. This is not working. The idea would be knight g5 and knight e6, and then potential knight takes e7. But of course, that's all well analyzed. It doesn't work for white, so that's why white goes for this main principled way of playing. They go a4. I'm going to respond a5. Very often, when you want to take and play knight c5, you want to play bishop e6, and one of the things that prevent you from playing bishop e6 is that white has b2, b4. So a5 is a very useful move. They go rook e1, and now I'm going to play e takes d4. Knight takes d4 is very natural. Of course, queen takes d4 also exists. If knight takes d4, I was going to play knight e5, and the theory goes bishop a2, and I drop back my knight to c6. It looks a little bit funny, because my knight traveled all the way 3 moves to just ultimately land in a square that I could have played with, right away with knight c6. But the idea is that the structure changes a lot once you take on d4. If I had put my knight on c6 right away, I would have been always having to calculate onto d5. Okay, so it's black to play. White took with the queen. This is also another way of playing. It's absolutely fine. I have knight c5 as a candidate move with the idea of bishop e6. I have c6 as a candidate move. I have knight e5, takes, but I don't think that works, unfortunately. It is an idea, because bishop d6, queen g5. So actually, I'm going to play h6, which threatens knight e5. I remember having this position with the white pieces at some point. I have an analyzed game against Fiona, a very well-known commentator, in chess, from Luxembourg. She played a Philidor against me. I was playing with the white pieces, and this was a common idea. So what I was threatening, if white had played the neutral bad move rook b1, is like knight e5, takes, bishop d6. Because now g5 is not accessible for the queen, and that means queen d4 has to be played, but then bishop takes h2, and I win the queen. I'm going to stop talking too much, because I have very little time now. Oh, wait a second, that still works? I think that can potentially still works. I'm going to play c6, though. There's queen b5, which worries me. Okay, now it doesn't work. Let's play knight c5. Threaten knight e6. Okay, let's go knight e6. Also, bishop e6 looks strong. Let's go bishop e6. I want my knight ultimately on e6, not my bishop. Okay, let's go takes. Okay, queen c8 seems reasonable, but I think I'm losing the pawn on d6. Queen c7 blunders to queen takes c5. Knight e6 makes sense. Hitting the bishop. And then, I guess this? Queen c7, actually. Now that there's no knight on c5. e5 makes sense, I'm gonna take. Then go queen c8 potentially. Queen b6 also makes sense. Ah, but there's knight takes f7, goodness gracious, I'm gonna flag. It's completely my fault. Completely. Who else's fault is gonna be? Of course it's my fault. I'm gonna take here. I'm gonna see how much I can survive. But definitely this is not good. Takes. This is completely losing, and I don't play this in the best way. I'm gonna allow my opponent to checkmate me to end my suffering. Okay, my opponent decides to continue. There we go. Thanks for the game, he had talent. Let's analyze that game. I got too passionate with the explanation of things. At least you guys got that. Everything I said was pretty accurate as far as I'm concerned, but you know, how useful is this going to be if I'm not actually winning the games? So it turns out h6 wasn't the best, as the engine is very very clearly telling us. I'm focusing today on this opening and new opening for Sunday tournaments. Ah, nice, the Philidor. I think it's a good opening if you know what you're doing. It's very setup wise, so you don't have to learn tons as compared to, I don't know, the Nachtorf being a very, you know, completely in the other side of the balance. Take a look at Leon Levach's videos. That's where I learned. Well, this is where I'm still learning. Okay, so this is the main line. This is all well known. Let's open the opening book. Let's make sure that's in Masters database, of course. Not leeches. People on leeches play whatever. Let's go to Masters database. This is Grandmasters, International Masters, strong people. And let's mess everything up. Okay, there we go. So everything was kind of standard until this point, so everything is well known. And here I took on d4. I had to play c6 first. And then after h3, e takes d4 exists. I remember now. Yeah, c6 is a useful move, as I kind of realized later on. I mean, knight b6 is playable, c6 is no longer, because bishop f4, and I kind of showed my cards very quickly. Of course, if I play c6 right away, white can't go bishop f4. So this is about flexibility in chess. a5 is a useful move, c6 is a useful move, and then, only then, I'm ready to take on d4. But either way, I play this, h3, and yeah, after this it doesn't work. It's +1 already for white, so it's bad for black. I should have gone c6. h3 is a very useful move here for white. And here takes, if queen takes, I have knight c5. Now this is not that bad. If we compare it to the other position, white's bishop is already on f4 and my pawn is already on h6. So that the inclusion of those two moves, of course, benefits white, because white gets to pressure the d6 pawn quite a lot. So yeah, actually the inclusion of the moves were also h3, so white of course is even happier with h3. So yeah, things went wrong. I should have played, I repeat, c6 first, and let's say after h3, then I take queen takes d4 and then knight c5. And after bishop f4, then bishop e6 is not losing as much as what it was happening in the game, because this was essentially, with the pawn on h6, it was white to play, but here it's black to play. Instead of playing the suboptimal h6, I play bishop e6, which is much better. Okay, well, and after rook 81, let's just go slightly deeper. This is very low depth, so it's kind of difficult, but I mean, white is scoring pretty well here. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Queen takes d4. Isn't there anything better? The engine likes knight b6 more. Okay, grandmasters are playing knight c5. Leon Levaich played knight b6. I see. So if Leon Levaich, the one that I'm following him, it's important to know the names, because if you know for a fact, sorry, I'm shouting a little bit. If you know for a fact that this guy is the expert in this line, it's good to locate him. Of course, he's playing with the black pieces here, and he's recommending knight b6 because he played it in a classical tournament. So he played knight b6, and let's say bishop b3, just out of curiosity. Aha, I see knight of d7 with the idea of bishop f6 at some point. Rook e8, knight c5 first, and then bishop f6. Interesting. So knight b6 is the way, and if bishop f1, let's say, we go d5, e5, knight of d7. What is the threat? Knight c5, knight e6. Okay. So that's all we need to know, because queen takes d4 is independent to knight takes d4. Knight takes d4, then we go knight c5. And the explanation behind this is that after something like bishop f4, there's bishop e6. Takes, you take with the pawn, because you're going for d5. What was the line where you took on d4 and you go knight e5 and knight c6? Wasn't it this one? a5, h3 maybe here? No. Weird. There's a line where you go, you take on d4 and you play knight e5. I would have to check my theory. But for now, I think this is sufficient to go c6. It's a useful move. And then take on d4. And then go for knight c5. We get Edis Gurel playing Bullet. I think many people are aware of him being pretty strong in Bullet nowadays. Especially after that YouTube short that Leeches uploaded. We get the reverse Spanish. So bishop b4. Here the best move is knight 65. Because we're essentially playing a reversed Berlin. So imagine the Berlin is already pretty good. It has an incredible reputation with black. But you're playing it with an extra tempo, so you're gonna take the pawn. And you go bishop e2, covering the e file. The e file proves to be pretty important. Here you go knight d3, hitting the bishop. It's very important. Takes, takes. Now we have the bishop pair. And there was an important move soon. So I'm not sure if we castle here or we go c4. I think c4 is important sooner or later. I think I'm gonna go c4 right away because I don't want to allow d5. If castle short side, d5 may be worrying. Or maybe not because I'll go knight f4 and if c6, c4 either way. I'm gonna castle. It looks more natural. So knight f4 is what I intended. I guess they can go knight f6. So what should I do? Let's go knight f4. Let's go c4. Okay, I guess that this is all still theory. I guess bishop d3. Okay. Opponent blitzing out the moves. Assuming this is still theory, but it's not necessarily true. Can take and play knight d3, by the way. I think I'm gonna do that actually. Knight c5, knight d3. No, knight c5, b4. Okay. Knight d3. Bishop g4, queen g3. Oh, wait a second. Did I blunder bishop e2? Wow, that's pretty beautiful, actually. Unfortunate. Can I tuck in bishop h6? How on earth did I manage to lose this? This is insane. Okay, let's go bishop h6 to confuse. We can go bishop g5. Bishop g5, f6. Doesn't work. Bishop h6, f6 doesn't work. Actually, maybe this works. But it looks insanely ugly. Ay, ay, ay. Oh, yeah, yeah, I didn't even see this. Goodness gracious, I'm getting completely outplayed here. Completely. 95 is the only thing that I can see that confuses the opponent. Kind of resists a little longer. But I've been outplayed. Completely outplayed. Okay, let's see. Knight d3. I'm losing. I'm losing so many different levels, shapes, and forms. I don't think this is worth continuing. Thank you for the game, Umbrella. Thank you for that masterclass. Goodness gracious. When did we do wrong? Knight d3, bishop 63, d takes e3, knight takes e4 castles. So d5, knight f4. So this is all correct. What did we mess up? Okay, bishop e3 here. c4 is fine. What did Peter Vidler play? He played c4, Michael Adams played c4. Someone has played this recently. Well, I want. Okay, bishop e3. Okay, c4, I trust in c4. c4 makes sense. d4. It's pretty impressive that this is not that bad for black. Considering it's the reversed Berlin. But yeah. So bishop d3. Yeah, bishop d3 is slightly worse than rook e1, but nothing major. And then I should have gone c3 here. Because I'm winning after bishop takes e4 if they take. But I was worried about things like this. Okay, this is not obvious. This is the part of the analysis where this is what I wanted to know, you know? Like, this is what you need to just memorize and understand before you play this opening. Hello, Watermelon. Yeah, it's been a while. I recall your username. What would you suggest, Sir Rui Lopez or Italian? I think the Italian is better to learn as white. With the Rui Lopez, there are tons of variations, and the Berlin seems to be pretty. I mean, not impossible to break, but you know. Yeah, like go for the Italian. I would say. I don't know the Italian that well myself, by the way. So I know better the Rui Lopez. I think either of them is fine. So knight c5, bishop c2 is winning for white. So that's why people play in this position bishop f5. And here, the engine gives bishop takes e4, rook takes e4, f3, rook e8, and just take the pawn. Seems pretty materialistic. But yeah, it's just an extra pawn. But I don't like this. It kind of dissolves too quickly. So bishop e4 is a good move here. If it's dissolving and, you know, making life for white that difficult. But everyone takes. Everyone castles. Everyone goes bishop e2 or knight d3. It ends up transposing. I'm just making sure I'm not missing something obvious. When do you get your FM title? I saw it on Leeches a couple of months ago. I was just about to say give us Italian masterclass, then you said, yeah, I don't know that well, sorry. I know the ideas and I can play it decently. I want to believe in a classical game, but I'm more confident with the Rui Lopez. So 93 is fine, bishop takes e3. Yeah, this is all fine. This is all fine. Who do I trust out of these? I mean, I trust in Peter Vilder. Ah, I see. Okay, let's go for something more modern. This is like before the 2000s. Although I trust in Ponomariov. But, you know, if Dominguez was playing with the white pieces here, I would trust him more. 2013, 2018, Artemiev played knight f4 and lost. I guess that they're preventing this d5 move. Yeah, it seemed like he got a good position. If you got a winning position, this is why you shouldn't get discouraged to analyze a game just because white lost. Even if, of course, obviously we're trying to figure out what's the best way we can play as white. Many people would skip this just for the fact that Artemiev ended up losing, but he was winning. And actually it came down to only one move. It was prep probably from Alireza, and you know, 21 is a tough move to see, and if you don't find it, you're just equal. So yeah. Okay, well, I think I'm gonna go for knight f4 next time. What does the engine think, by the way? Ah, the engine calls us short side. But this is... Okay, yeah, the engine calls us short side. So we shouldn't be scared about this. Because d6, of course, it just kind of transposes. Kind of. Yeah, this is what I remember. I remember this. Yeah, bishop g5. Yeah. But d5 seems to be annoying. Ah, okay, rook e1 scores better. I see. Rook e1 is potentially better than knight f4. Knight f4. e6, c4 seems to be dissolving, liquidating the position right away. But rook e1, now we're threatening bishop f1, or this is the idea at least. This is the plan. And just go f3, bishop f1, bishop e3. And if c6, just bishop f1. This is natural. Natural moves. It looks like kind of like a Caro-Kann actually. But normally the Caro-Kann, there's a pawn on f6. And we have a pawn on d4. Yeah, normally this pawn... Which pawn is on f6? I completely forgot about that. Wait a second. Okay, I see. Black's pawn on d5 doesn't exist. So we have a pawn on d4 and black has a pawn on f6. That's the line of the Caro-Kann. But in this case, I guess it benefits black to have a pawn on d5. Yeah. Very dry position. Interesting. Okay. Enough analysis. I'm going to close the multiple windows I had open. tabs. We're playing as the GM, nice. Okay, we're playing the Philidor with 1d6. Okay, we're gonna go for the endgame. GMs like endgames. We've studied this before actually. So the idea is c6. So now I want to go king c7. Actually, that's not true. I want to go bishop c5 and then king e7. In this case, I'll have to spend one tempo playing king e8, given that knight takes e5 is something to worry about. And then bishop c5, king e7, unfortunately, will have to take me slightly longer. Maybe I should have gone for something different. Okay, so I'm gonna go b5. I think this is part of the analysis we made. So we go b5, a5. They have to go a4 at some point. I guess they can go a3. Of course, a4 is a very big threat. a4, b4, knight b1 is the main line. You can check it in yesterday's stream. I just have to watch out for tricks like, I don't know, if knight b1, like knight b1 I don't think I can take because of knight takes e5, and if knight takes e5, rook d8. That's why my opponent takes on f6 first. Now to take with the knight or with the pawn. Sorry, I said it the other way around. Pawn or knight? What's the best? Knight takes f6. Weakens. I feel like pawn. And then knight c5. I think we're doing well actually. I can go rook g8, but I think knight c5 directly also works. I don't want to get knight h4, although rook g4 is winning a pawn. Okay, let's go knight c5. There's no way this is the wrong move. So he gives up that already. So knight h4, I go rook g4. And if g3 I take, f3 I take. What is going on there? Sacrifice the exchange. But I took 2 pieces? Wait a second. No, I take... No, I am sacrificing the exchange. Okay, well, let's not do that then. We can go bishop h6. Oh, wait a second, I can take... And then take and go knight f2. Actually, there are tons of very attractive options here. We just have to keep an eye on clock. On the clock. Okay. So I'm gonna take here and play knight f2. Although I'm a little bit scared that white has enough... A little bit of... counterplay. Because I have no development. I'm getting rid of all the pieces that I have active. And I didn't even get rid of my opponent's active pieces. So this is a little bit risky. This one I didn't even consider. Didn't even consider. Yeah, this is poor. This is the beginning of... The beginning of the end. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Okay, this is falling. Bishop d7, castles queen. I can't castle queenside. Let's hold on to the pawn as if it was our lives. I think this is the way. We're not losing by any means. Okay, that one I don't see the point of. I think this is just fine. Kind of. Okay, f4 is what they're claiming. Okay. Oh, I can't. Yeah, I could. Okay, now I can take with the king again. Because king f5 is pretty good. Okay. Kind of knew this was coming. Oh, I have check and rook d7. This is strong. Maybe. Good game. It ended up coming to flagging. Surprisingly, we took the point. We were doing well. We were doing well. It wasn't needed. Yeah. -1, -1.5. But yeah, I should have taken here and played f5. Yeah, I was trying f5 before, but then I completely forgot about it. What about the previous part of the game? Yeah, knight 64, this, and knight 62 works. Yeah, should have trusted my instincts. Yeah, I have two bishops looking at the king. Makes sense. And even if I end up... Oh, never mind. I spoke too soon. This is winning for... Well, I mean, it's better for white now. It's not winning, but my advantage dissolves. The bishop h3 is a strong move here. Yeah. And the bishops are too strong. Ay, ay, ay. Let's take a look at the opening. Hello, Luca. Thank you, thank you. Hopefully you're learning something. So we were checking this line yesterday, and the engine likes 97. I guess just keeping the additional option of taking with the knight. So castle's queenside is the main line, and I played c6. c6 is the move that scores the best. The engine favorite too. So if you take a look at the first and the second options, the most popular moves, black scores significantly better with the second one than in the first one. And you're going to say, David, black is scoring 100%. Isn't this amazing? There's only one game. So the data this is based on, it's not reliable. Not as reliable as with 13 games. You can make a case for the 17 games as well. Like bishop d6 also makes sense. But c6 is the absolute best. The engine likes it. And after this, I should have gone king c7. And I was just scared that this pawn was weak. But yeah, now I remember there were ways of defending this pawn indirectly by tactical means. King e8 can't be wrong, and it is not wrong. And here, bishop c4, I go b5 now that this is defended. And this is actually a mistake. Bishop c4 is not the main line. Or it shouldn't be one of the best. But one of the best is bishop h4 according to the engine and according to the database. So clearly that the titled players that were playing with the white pieces and played bishop h4 knew their stuff. Yeah, am I lagging again? Yeah. Sorry guys, if you guys just came from a lag spike. Hopefully you guys are back now. Can you hear me? Well, I'm assuming you can now that the OBS says that everything's fine. And my ping is going down, so it should be fine. Back to normal. But I was just saying, bishop h4 is the best move, and in this case, these 21 title players that were playing with the white pieces definitely know what they're doing, because bishop h4 clearly is not a novice move, first of all, but clearly shows that someone is familiar with these structures. And the idea of this move is that Normally black wants to go knight g4, gain a tempo on the f2 pawn, and play f6, knight h6, knight f7. And by playing bishop h4, you're anticipating that. So it's prophylaxis, a very good, beautiful, nice prophylactic move. And after this, the engine goes either bishop c5 or bishop b4. I like bishop c5 with the idea of knight g4. And if bishop c4, b5, bishop b3, a5. I was wondering what to do against a3, but I guess it's just the same. So a4, b4, and knight b1. The engine likes provoking b4 so they can exploit the c4 square later on. And after knight g4, it's just normal chess. f6, knight h6, knight f7, and it's a normal game. So that was a good win. First time a good win against the GM in a while. Let's put it that way. Okay, what is this? They're using our tricks against us. Okay, so they're going to go for a Philidor. I'm gonna play d4. Or maybe they're not gonna go for a Philidor. Let's see. Let's go knight d2. And I'm gonna go for the c3 system. It's actually trickier than it seems. It looks like I'm playing very passively, but actually it's not obvious. It's not obvious how to play. So I'm gonna keep things tense. So my opponent is inviting me to go d5. I think I'm not gonna accept the invitation of that because, sorry, if I do go d5, c4, I would have to reroute my knight to c3, so my knight on d2 would be misplaced. And I don't want to have to do that. So I'm gonna just play h3, prevent bishop g4, which would be undermining my center indirectly, given that the knight on f3 is one of the key sustainers of the center. So now d5 I consider again, because normally knight e7 is the natural escape square for that knight on c6, and if d5 they would have to go either to b8 or d8. b8 is not that bad, so maybe that's the end of that consideration. I'm gonna go rook e1, but it's good to kind of be aware that d5 continues to be a candidate move. Not because it didn't work before, it doesn't mean it doesn't work now. Okay, I think I'm just going to execute one of the distinctive Ruy Lopez maneuver with knight f1, knight g3. But I'm also tempted to just go b3, bishop b2. I'm tempted. a4 also makes sense. I'm just gonna occupy space in the queen side. Okay, they're going for... they're putting pressure here. Okay, kind of I'm left with no choice, I guess. Ugh, I should have been aware of this. Very poor, very poor. Knight c4 takes. And I don't see anything. And d5, knight b8, and then f5 is coming. I'll have to do what I didn't want to do. But I guess it's fine. I'm gonna go knight f1. They go knight d8, interesting. Okay, should I go knight c4 or knight f1? Knight f1 seems more reasonable to go g3. Wow. Didn't expect that. Knight takes g5. Knight f4, bishop takes f4, knight f3 back. Yeah, I'm doing fine now. I do open up the bishop, but because my pawn is on c3, it's not as amazing as it usually is. And I guess e5 is a threat. Maybe not. Maybe if my bishop was on c2 and my queen was on d3, then definitely, yeah. Either way, they get rid of all of those ideas right away. I'm gonna go a5. I have to keep an eye on the clock, as usual. Let's go king h1 just to be prophylactic. Because they want to essentially completely obliterate us in the g file. So I'm gonna hit the pawn on h6, force an awkward move, such as queen f6, or that. And now I'm gonna go bishop e2, bishop g4, or knight h2, knight g4. I like this one. There's this. So all I need to do is get rid of this pawn now. How on earth am I gonna do that? Oh, queen h3, f3. Okay, let's go king here and king f1 and king e2 and just essentially run. Okay. You can open that up. I don't mind. I think I don't. Maybe I do. It's clearly all about the clock now. Let's not blunder everything. Oh yeah. We're blundering everything. Yeah, I didn't realize I was so low on time. When did that happen? Yeah, I'm gonna lose on time in this one. Wow. Ah. They didn't see it? Completely didn't understand that. Ah, that doesn't work. Oh, he goes for queen h7. I should have gone rook here and then there's mate? Yeah. I mean, okay. Of course, my opponent was playing on the clock and as they should. Let's take a look at that game. It was going well for the first part. Rook e1, h6. Then we go d5, so this is alright. This is +1. Should have gone a5 according to the engine, but you know the engine likes doing these things in King's Indians. The engine tends to overvalue the space advantage and just allow black to go f5 and you know. Well, in this case, I guess I do believe it. Although there's not a 4. Okay, knight g6, my opponent. And I were not aware of all of that. I'm quite sure. Maybe my opponent was. E takes f5, bishop takes f5 though. Bishop takes f5, rook takes f5, g4, of course. And if there's knight takes e5. So what if not f4 first? Bishop c2 and then f5. Okay, then we just go knight f1 and we keep the tension. Okay, king h8 for example. We take and take. Okay, so let's not do that. Let's say black's queen is on. Okay, let's say they take. Bishop takes e4. I think you should have a pawn on h5. Yeah, I mean... I completely forgot that I was completely winning. I see. To take on the pawn on h5, right? Yeah. Yep. I know, wait a second, rook h8, and the engine claims this is... And I'm not sure if that's what you meant, Watermelon. Either way, I think... The main... I mean, we played well. We played well. Because we closed things up and we got knight f1, and then we punished the mistake. We just didn't manage our time well. Same story, same story. Knight g4 is a mistake, though. Rook g1 with the idea of g4, I'm assuming? Or g3. Yeah. This was the best. But knight g4 is a mistake because it allows... This bishop is not great. It doesn't have anywhere to go. And bishop d7 is not a massive improvement. So I'm just, you know, yeah, what am I doing? Yeah. Good game overall, too slow. We're playing against Jaime. How much? We have 15 minutes left. Let's see. Let's see if we can give some quality chess. Knight f6, e5. No endgame. Okay, let's go knight bd7. Bishop e7. Bishop takes f7 is just a cheapo. That's castle. Yeah, this is what people do. They go for early a4, a5 to prevent black from going a5. Okay, e takes d4, knight takes d4. c6. c6 makes sense. If a6, I have b5. So here my idea was to go knight c5. Actually, one of my, yeah. Actually, if knight takes d4, I think knight takes d4 is probably working, so that's why my opponent goes for this. Okay, so now the idea, what is my idea? Ooh, there's some beautiful lines here. Ooh. Okay, 95. Take a look at this. Knight takes d5, d takes d5, queen takes d5, bishop d6, queen g5, h6, queen h4, knight g4. And we're threatening both bishop takes h2 and queen takes h4. This is all. This doesn't work. I know it does work because there's 93 at the end. So I was thinking, oh, okay, this. And there's f3 at the end. There's 93. And we're fine. Ah, that was a nice. Oh, my. Okay, let's all act like that did not happen. That was embarrassing, to say the least. Goodness gracious. Yeah, this is all not working. I was bluffing. Forget about the last 3 minutes of this stream. Goodness gracious, that was insanely pathetic. I've never had such a pathetic moment in my life. I don't know. I don't know where I was coming from, you know? Completely blind to this. This is insane. This is bad. But even if I had gone 95, there's this very strong bishop 6-7 move. That's insane. What am I doing? Do you play games against viewers? I've got that question many times. Not in this period of time. Once we become a slightly bigger community, potentially. But for now, my priority is just to get to 2600. Goodness gracious. That's pretty sad. Pretty worrying as well. Yeah, no, this is... I was like... At a moment of ignorance. But I have many, like, you know... Most of, you know, my moments are ignorance. Pretty sad. So 95 is not a move. How do you punish this a4, a5 then? You castle, h3, a5, and then e takes d4. E takes d4 right away. And if queen takes d4? 95 doesn't work here? Because I think I recall something, but it doesn't work here either. Then you go c6. Okay, what if I go c6 now? Okay, what I was gonna do against this is knight takes e4. Which works because I get d5 and it's... Although the engine thinks white is still slightly better. So the engine takes first, knight takes d4 here runs into knight c5, which forces f3. And that's suboptimal because c6 is better then. And if queen takes d4, c6, castles, and just simply queen c7. Knight c5 runs into rook d1. Queen c7 with the idea of knight e5 and a bishop f4. Knight h5, of course, of course, of course. This is actually my game against Fiona. I played against Fiona in this position. I think I'm quite sure it went something like this. She went queen c7, bishop f4, and then knight h5 was a problem. So I played h3, but then knight e5 is fine. Well, What a bad moment in history. I'm quite sure it's gonna go into the chess history books. The blunder of respectful Dave. Very important moment. Okay. We're getting another one of those. Hopefully we can... Hey, we get another early a4. We're not playing against the same opponent, so it's pretty interesting. We're lucky. Let's see if we can redeem ourselves. So we're gonna take on d4 right away, as the engine likes. Here we're gonna play knight c5, forcing f3, and then we're gonna go c6. We were analyzing this 10 seconds ago. Okay, a minute ago. Okay, 96, d5. Moment of truth. Bishop e6. I think bishop e6 probably works. Because if takes, I take. And b4, d5. Bishop 65 is always check. Yeah, we got a good position. So e takes d5 is my first instinct because it gets rid of the weakness on e6, but the c takes d5 has the plus, the additional advantage of opening the c file for the rook. I'm gonna go for the solid option. Bishop a2, and I go knight e6, b5, bishop c5. Actually, oh, I'm lagging. Bishop a2, maybe knight a6 actually. I was just analyzing that bishop a2 line and I was going knight e6 initially, but maybe knight e6. Knight e6, b5, knight b4 is better. I'm gonna go for that. Ugh. I already kind of regret it. What am I doing? Something like knight here was but fine. Or knight e6. Yeah, knight here because b4 is weak. So kind of just give b5 with a tempo. Okay, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. Okay, this I thought... Am I still lagging? Still fine. This I thought... Okay, queen takes c5 doesn't work, but I am threatening queen c5 though. But it doesn't work, so let's just take back for now. Okay. Okay. Let's just get out of this, so we can enable d4 if needed. Hello, Roger. Hope you're doing well. Though, well, at least it's not over the board, like, for example, Fabian Giri. Oh, yeah. That was a quite remarkable. Queen takes a5 was also a move. c5 makes sense. Rook b8. Okay. Queen a5. We're just up 2 pawns. I mean, there's knight 65, queen 65, bishop d4, and a7 is hanging in the end. But I think I have queen b5 and knight d3 ideas. Okay. Very sharp. What? Nice. Thanks for the game. Yeah, that was a good game until that point. I think it was pretty interesting that we got exactly the same opening as in the previous game. That's why it's important to analyze your games. What was that? I had no idea. I think at some point people, when you're getting into time trouble, it's contagious. Many chess players just try to win on time a little bit too much. We went knight c5, we forced f3 as promised, as analyzed. And then we went c6 as analyzed. And then we should have gone d5 simply, which I considered briefly. But I didn't like the isolated pawn. Turns out it's fine. I just got rook e8, and if bishop g5 I go a6, preventing a6 from my opponent, and then 96. 96 directly is also technically fine, but it allows a6. No, it allows bishop b5, which is annoying. There's d4 though, wow. This is equal. Slightly better for black actually. Maybe a6 is not necessary, maybe you can go 96 right away. So yeah, in other words, d5 was the way, but I went bishop e6. And it's just kind of doing it in a suboptimal way. Like if you can go d5 right away. The whole point of bishop e6 is that you want to go d5 eventually. But b4 is making things worse for white. Bishop e3 was better. b4 and then I go d5 and everything's fine. So black had no trouble at all. Taking here was better, surprisingly. Sacrificing the pawn and going queen e2, you can take it back right away. And queen d4, bishop b2. Wow. Hello, can I get a good... Yeah, unfortunately I'm on my way out. I may play one more game. And head out. Sorry about that. So knight a6, b5. Ah, knight a6 is the best move. I was torturing myself for not having played something like this. But knight a6 is the best move. And knight b4 is the best move. My subconscious knows more than me. c5 was the best move here. But I kind of wanted to keep this structure here because it kills both of these pieces. So it's quite surprising that the engine likes c5, c4. Is that the threat? Yeah, c4. Interesting. And if bishop e3, of course, d4. Ah, no. Bishop e3, you can't play d4. So king h8 and then threatening d4. And if bishop f2, just rook c8. But I went bishop c5. And then white is back to the game if knight e2. But they went knight a4. And then I went bishop d6. Now I'm back in the game myself. I should have played c5. I was worried about something here. I was worried about c3. It takes on d5. But of course... Instead of going to c6, the very strong... Whoa! The very strong move is knight g4. And if takes queen h4, which I consider briefly in some positions, but you know, it's... How on earth am I gonna... And all of this because you have knight d3 in the end. Wow. That's insane. That's insane. And all of this because you have bishop g3 in the end too. Oof, okay. Yeah, good luck. That's why I didn't see it. I guess it wasn't that easy. Hello, Dr. Waffle. You have a puzzle for today. I have a puzzle pending from Viking, and he sent it on the Discord. Could you send yours again? I think I have one pending of you, actually. Oh... Now that I think about it, I'm kind of owing everyone a puzzle. I'll try to solve them, all of them, before Wednesday. So I either will send you a message via the Discord, or I'll solve it and then come back on Wednesday's stream and redeem myself. But okay, I think this is a good way of stopping the stream. Because after this, you know, we were winning. We could have gone knight h5 as well, with the idea of queen h4, knight g3. Like, all of white's pieces are in the queen side. It makes sense that black has compensation in the king side. Clearly knights move like that, by the way. I meant this. But now queen 65 is too materialistic, and then here I should have dropped it back, but instead taking is not that good, rook c1 is not that good, and everyone is playing for time now. Well, white is playing for time, black is suffering. Rook h5 was just a mistake. And here I blunder mate in 2. What am I... Oh. Yeah, this is pretty poor. This is quite a common motive. I just kind of felt like he was going to blunder the rook, and I thought that was mate somehow. But there's no mate here. So I just took everything, and, you know, I'm still in time because I have 6 seconds. This one is likely only one tricky move. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. I'll keep that in mind. Okay, well, before I stop the stream, actually, I just want to say something. Did you guys see... Did you guys see that Wei Yi is completely crushing everyone? Let's see, where is this? Tie breaks here. It was the last game, was it? Yeah. I mean... So I was watching the live stream until then. Wei Yi is an expert of the Italian. And Esipenko is also very good. Of course, I mean, he's in the semifinals, but he hadn't been playing this previously. So, yeah, I guess that was practically a little bit risky. And then, I mean, from a 0.0 position, completely equal. Things slowly start going white's way. It's just insane, these guys. So white's position has the advantage of the d file. Other than that, white doesn't have any other major advantages. Like, it's all 2 very small advantages. Well, okay, let's say 3. White's space in the queen side, white's open d file, and white's knight on f5. So to convert this is insanely difficult. So very instructive. White goes knight d2 with the idea of knight f1, knight e3, knight d5. And then they go into an endgame because Esipenko is seeing that knight f1, knight e3 is coming. So things change. Now this is a completely different type of position. You have to approach it in a different way. But yeah, I mean, just take a look at this visually. White continues to build up pressure. The knights are still slightly better than black's knights. And white continues to have the d file. So those 3 small advantages are still present. And... it should be in the Discord. And just to take a look at the ending of this game. So eventually they trade a pair of knights. It's still completely equal, but now there's a weakness on a6 and c6. And you know, when you're playing like this as black for a long time... Oh, wait a second, what happened? I thought it was a clean win. Turns out that white allowed a little bit of counterplay. I was about to say, you know, when you've been playing like this as black for a long time, eventually you give in. I recall the game differently. Sorry about that. Well, it turned out to be not a very clean win then. Ah, wow! Oh, that's pretty dramatic. Why is this not making it to the YouTube shorts and stuff? Yeah, I feel like chess is just completely... like, people are completely wrong. So, Esipenko's blundering the rook, leaving the rook on pre, which is what I did in this stream, for example. So, I'm glad to see the very best doing it as well. It gives us all confidence and hope. And, you know, you don't see this very often. I mean, it's completely equal. If Esipenko draws the game, they're just going to go into more tie breaks. So he just had a moment of weakness. And, you know, that was it. I thought it was a tight squeeze. To be fair, it was being a very tight squeeze. And you could argue that, you know, Wei Yi's pressure against Esipenko throughout the whole game, middle game specifically, really took energy from Esipenko. And, you know, as a result, he ended up blundering. But okay, that would be a little bit too... it would be romanticizing a lot. I think it was just a moment of weakness, and it happens because we're all human. Okay, thanks everyone for joining. Hopefully you learned something, and I will be streaming again on Wednesday. Thanks everyone. Have a good day.